So in that search for something that is the best, well, always looking for some cool home assistant products, and yeah, the Wise Outdoor Plug gets us there. And the cool part is we can use this as a Bluetooth proxy. And yeah, we've covered that before. And what the Bluetooth proxy is, if you don't know exactly, is yeah, we have all these cool, inexpensive, like Bluetooth little thermometers. We got the ThermoPro, the SwitchBot ones, and there's even a bunch of like different lights and different stuff for outdoors. And that becomes a problem whenever you don't have coverage for Bluetooth outdoors. You know, you live in the McMansion and your home assistant server or a Pi or whatever it is with the Bluetooth adapters, you know, down deep in the basement, you just can't get that coverage. So that's where the developers came out a while back with the whole Bluetooth proxy thing. And all that really is it just in layman's terms is you can put a device in either like a Node MCU, ESP32, or different plugs that have ESP Home on them. And it just listens for that Bluetooth data and it forwards it over Wi-Fi or Ethernet over to your home assistant system. So yeah, you can already see you can put one of these, which is an outdoor rated plug, put it in the backyard. You can pick up sensors like, say, soil sensors in the garden or whatever it may be, and you can extend all that Bluetooth coverage with Bluetooth proxies. So we're going to show you in this video how to put ESP Home on this Wise Outdoor Plug. Because why is it the best? Well, it's a double relay. I mean, there's two plugs on it. It has power monitoring. There's even a lux sensor so you can see how much light is out there. You got buttons. It's an ESP32. There's a killer little antenna inside. And the best part is there's pads ready for us to install ESP Home, and you can do it with no soldering. And yeah, I've even seen these on Woot and some other different sites for down like $8 US. That's stupid nuts for this device here. I think they go normally around $15. I can see them in like Home Depot and stuff like that. Now, if you already done stuff with Bluetooth proxies and everything, and you just want to hang out and learn some other stuff, I'll cover some stuff into the video as well. So how are we going to do this without any soldering? Yeah, there's not an over-the-air exploit at this time. I don't expect them to be, but the cool part is you can just open this with a screwdriver, and then we'll use a BDM frame. And no, that's not some crazy sexual term, but these are just little pins, and you'll just put them on the pads. There's no soldering. You still can solder if you want. It's stupid simple. And so yeah, let's get to it and get started. So the first thing is really the plug itself. They do have the little rubber pieces. I've already pulled them out. They're just little rubber plugs that go on the screw holes. And yeah, get yourself a decent little screwdriver. You know, this is going to be those different little triangle little bits. My son got me this for Christmas a good while back, and I've used the hell out of it. It's an iFixit kit. And yeah, it's so nice to have a nice little kit when you're working on different things. I'll leave all the links down to things below. You don't have to get this expensive kit. You can just get some other little drivers that have the triangle bits. Then use a screwdriver or a little spudger and pull the back door off of this thing. And it's almost like they made this to be opened by us. Because check this out. They have this little waterproof, or I guess weatherproof, little door on there. Easy to open up and get to the glory of the ESP32 right there inside for us to get to. We're going to be looking at these pads right here. And then you've got this ground, TX, RX. If we can get that other one there with the shadow, it says boot. And then the 3v3 pad is right tucked up under there on the very top of the frame. Now, if you want to solder this thing, go right ahead. It's a solid bet. It's going to get it done. You don't have to pull the board out of here unless you really, really want to. But we're going to be using those BDM pins from that frame just to put the little pins on those pads, and that's it. You could actually put them around the edge of the ESP module, but we're not needing to do that because they broke them out for us already. Now, You can see the cool little frame right here. That is that Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna. It's not that regular little PCB antenna, so you're going to get a little better gain out of this thing. And they did that because they knew people were going to be putting these outdoors where Wi-Fi coverage might not be the greatest. But we can benefit from that, having that Bluetooth scanning on that additional, I got like bigger ears kind of. You're going to need a USB TTL adapter. And this just simply has a USB-A plug on it to go on your computer. And then it breaks down to the pins for 3v3, ground, TX, RX. This one has 2 grounds, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, I believe Amazon did change the listing on this one. The pictures are wrong. There's a better one that it's kind of solid. We call it the little red guy on Discord, and I'll leave that link down below. Now, if you want a really, really good one, is the VoltLink one. And this will probably be the last one that you purchase for a while. And this was made by a DIYer, I think overseas, I think in Romania, but I may have that wrong. He sells them on Tindy, and they are quite awesome. They even have a little Shelly plug here. You can plug in the little adapter to program all your Shelly devices with no soldering as well. It has a little pin header and plugs in. And the cool thing about this one has a really good power supply. They say that's 500 milliamps. Sometimes on these, some of the FTDI ones, they do not have enough power to flash the ESP32s, and you'll just fight with it all day, and you may need to use an additional power supply if you have an older device that doesn't supply enough power. Now, I haven't had that issue with this one or the little red guy. The other thing I use is a little USB switch. It's just a simple on-off switch with USB-A on either side of it. And why you say, what the hell is this for? When you're wanting to toggle the power on this switch or your flashing devices, you don't have to unplug and plug. Yeah, I've been there. I did flashing with the old Sonos stuff. I did it for years with all that junk, and I really kicked myself for not getting one of these earlier. So what we're going to do here is set up the frame. So all these little BDM pins, all they are is going to be a place to put your DuPont jumper in the top. And then it has a little spring-loaded needle on the bottom. And you just slide it into the frame, and then we'll put it actually on the pad itself. It's that simple. Now, I do recommend plugging up your DuPont jumpers and everything, and then positioning the actual BDM pins afterwards. Get everything connected up. I'm going to use the little blue guy because some of the naysayers out there say, yeah, you can't flash these things. They don't have enough power. Yeah, they do. You don't really need the VoltLink, but I do highly recommend that VoltLink. If you run into issues, don't have enough power, try a different cable, try a different computer. Maybe that computer doesn't have enough USB power, and that's not allowing that ESP32 to flash, because yeah, you may have used the entire setup with ESP8266, but this is an ESP32 and they require more power. So what I'm using is, I like to use a little DuPont jumper that I soldered, and that's my splitter. You could just take 3 wires and just twist them together, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to use my little simple setup and split my ground, because you need a ground that goes to GPIO 0 or the boot pin on there, and then you need it to go to the ground and the other ground on there as well. That's pretty much it. Once you have your pins and you just set them down on the pads, now do remember you're going to be doing TX on the USB TTL to RX. So you'll transpose the RX and TX because this one sends out and then this one needs to listen. And I'll cover that on some of the stuff on the guide here in a minute. So that's pretty much it. You don't do any soldering, anything. You're just dropping down some pins on the little pads and call it a day. Let's jump into ESP Home and get our software ready to install on this plug. So don't forget, if you don't feel like sitting through all this crap, you can go find the full walkthrough guide on my website. I'll leave the link in the video description. It is step by step, every single thing we've covered, like including the pictures And exactly what you really can't do by voice was which way the pins go. That was that RX to TX and TX to RX. And this is the picture of that little red guy. Can't seem to find mine. Mine's somewhere in my stuff that I've changed over to the whole tub world. I'll find it eventually though. One thing I did want to note, do not feed it 5 volts. You will end up smoking your device and you'll have to get another one. Make sure you do feed it 3.3 volts. Now, if you haven't used ESP Home before, don't fret. It's really simple. If you are the HOS users, you can go add the ESP Home add-on, or if you're one of the cool kids with the Docker container stuff, you just go add the Docker container for ESP Home. It's right there in the instructions from esphome.io. Now, I've already added it here, got it in my little sidebar. Got the add-on done. I don't have any devices. This is my little test machine. We're going to build it all here. Now, we'll go through and we'll hit new device. And I'm going to say continue. And I want to zoom this in and drive myself nuts. So we're going to call this Wyze Outdoor 2 since I already have one. And you will need to put in your SSID for your Wi-Fi and your password. Do make sure that is correct. It's going to store it in a little secrets file for you. This really doesn't matter a whole lot, but if you want to go through it, you can pick ESP32. Now, I don't use the encryption. It's kind of a soapbox item in some of the Discord deals. I don't use it. I'm not using my devices on a public network. And so a lot of times I hear people just locking themselves out of their devices by overriding their passwords or forgetting their backups or whatever. So I just don't really use it. I've got bigger issues if I need encryption on my private network. So we'll hit skip and we're going to hit edit. And it's going to see it already has this kind of generic config for you. And you'll notice there's your secret for your SSID and password. So if you're live streaming stuff, you won't be sharing your passwords. But we're going to override all of this crap. And so go back to the guide. And I have the cool thing down here for you. We're here in this section here. If you want to just hit this little copy button here, and then we'll jump back to ESP Home. And I'm going to Control A and delete. And I'm going to paste over all of that. And so now I have this complete YAML code here. Now, if you do need to tweak some stuff with the amperage or voltage later on, and you find it's off a little bit in the power monitoring, you can update that stuff here. Now the name, of course, I called it Wyze Outdoor 2 and Wyze Outdoor 2. I'm going to overwrite that myself. If you've been around stuff with ESP32, you are seeing that I am building this ESP IDF, and I'll cover that in the closing of this video and what difference that makes. You can see my OTA and my API don't have a password. You can add them if you need them. Web server, I've disabled that. Is because I've heard several times there's memory issues with it, with the BLE and the whole power monitoring. If you really want to enable it, you can. But does it work? Great, I do not know. You don't really need to change anything else. That's more up to you if you want to change anything. So really just hit save. We're going to go ahead and just for funsies, come back and we're going to hit validate. And we should get this configuration is valid. At that point, we're going to hit install. And we can't do wirelessly just yet. That'll be later down the road if you're going to make changes to ESP Home. You can just make changes. The YAML hit wireless and it sends it right over. This first time we do need to do the manual download. I can't use the plug-in thing. If you can use this one, you're more than welcome to, but I like to use the manual download. And then I'm going to do the modern format. You need to use that one. It's very important. This may take a little bit. Let it build. And yeah, it's going to download a bin file to your computer and we'll jump back in to send it over to the plug when it's finished. And if it doesn't download, just a little download button behind me here and it'll download that bin file to your computer. Then, of course, we're going to just, I like the links in the guide. There's two methods. If you want to use ESPToolPy, you're more of a little expert on that. I do highly recommend that one because you can see the actual logs on them, but hey, I know everybody doesn't want to install that stuff, so let's jump on over and do the web esphome.io. I have heard of a couple issues, and I've also seen it myself, where everything goes through with the web GUI, but it doesn't boot correctly. We're gonna try it here this time and see what happens. But I've had to use ESP to get stuff to flash correctly. If you do need help with that and you get stuck, you can find the Discord link down below and we'll walk you right through that. So let's jump on over to the web. Now, before you click connect, we need to power up the USB TTL. That's where that little USB switch comes into play here, or you can just plug it into your computer. Got our little tone. If you never used it before and you're a Windows user or whatever OS, you may need to go check your drivers to make sure that CP2102 is loaded. Windows users, go check your Windows Update, optional updates, and you should see the driver there. Otherwise, you need to go download and install the drivers for it. So we'll click connect, and yep, you'll see we have that CP2102 here. Just hit connect on it, and I'm going to hit install, and I'm going to go browse to that bin file that we just downloaded. So we got our Wyse 2, make sure it's the factory one. You did that with that modern. Hit install. And this is where you cross your fingers. If all your little pins are correct, the little BDM frame, you should get this erasing message. If not, you're going to need to cut the power off from the USB TTL. Reposition your pins. Do make sure you have RX and TX transposed on both sides. And then turn power back on and then give it a shot again. Hopefully you can get it to do the installing here. It's pretty awesome once you do your first one. You're going to struggle probably a little bit, because sometimes messing with them little pins is like that old Operation games or whatever kind of pickup sticks is kind of a pain at first, but once you get the hang of them, they'll stick right on those pads with those points. Of course, if you're soldering, you know the deal. Just solder up and rock and roll. I'm going to shut my mouth and we're going to jump to 100%. Okay, so we got our configuration installed. We'll hit close. And I'm going to go power this thing up and see if we can get it going. Now, I've had issues with the little blue guy, the little red guy, different ones with they won't power ESP32, but they will flash them. You'll get the brownout detector. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the pins off, and we're just going to plug this into mains power. Never attach USB wires and attach it to mains power at the same exact time. Disconnect, use one or the other. Now, once we powered it back up on mains, just plugged it into the wall. Look, now it's showing online. And if you have an issue with MDNS and you can see the IP address and it actually joined up to your network, you can go use an option and add it into here called use_address. And you can populate the IP address, and that way it'll always use that address for you. As you can see here, I'm using a little custom domain. The .local stuff hasn't always worked out for me, but that's probably a whole different deal that we could get into maybe on a live stream or something one day. Now I can hit logs, wireless logs, and start to see all the stuff is going to populate, and you should see the voltage and the watts and jump back and forth as it goes through on the device itself. So let's go see if Home Assistant sees it. I can already see the notification here. And we can say check it out. Now you can, if it doesn't come up here, you can hit add integration manually and add an ESP home one and just put in that IP address. But if it has this, hit configure. It's not any simpler than that. Just hit submit. It asks you what area, finish, boom. Look at this. Already it's picking up all the different Bluetooth adapters. How stupid awesome is that? All the different little indoor, outdoor meters, all my Thermo Pros, iBeacon, yes, it will fill up your stuff with all kind of crazy devices, so I'll warn you there. Some Inkbird stuff. As we just continue to go on, BT Home, that's those little Xiaomi little $5 Bluetooth sensors. And as you can see, if I really wanted to add these, it's all auto discovery. This is the awesome part about the Bluetooth proxy is I just hit configure. And yeah, I want to set up the meter. Hit finish. Boom. What else is it adding? Oh, it's adding the blind tilts. think even I have a SwitchBot lock still. And we'll probably add that, but I think you got to add the key for it there. Yeah, puts everything in here. So now when we go into, we've got SwitchBot. So I've got that blind tilt device. I've got the indoor-outdoor temperature sensor sitting there on the desk. But hey, I could put all this outside if I like. And I guess I forgot the real part. We can go in and go see what actually the plug is actually doing. Is you do have the 2 relays to turn off and on, since it is a smart plug. And you've got the amps, you got the lux. Maybe need to change the lux into something else. I'm just reading the voltage from that light sensor just so you can see. Let's take my phone and we'll put the light on it, and we should see the lux sensor jump up here. I want to say it's under the face. And I have it only updating like every 10 seconds, so you can see it jumps up there. I think 3.3 is going to be the full, light. I've got a light pretty well blasting into it right there. So you can see it is a analog, so it's not just a on and off. So you can get a value, maybe do some sort of template sensor if you're one of the pros there. You get the watts, the volts, the whole thing, get the restart, and the Bluetooth freaking proxy. That is awesome. I'm sure it's found a ton of other devices while I have been running my mouth. So pretty cool stuff there. Bluetooth proxy, ESP home, no soldering. How stupid simple is that? Now you're probably already wondering what other devices Bluetooth can I put into Home Assistant with Auto Discovery. Now it's not an exhaustive list, but we in Discord have tried a bunch of different things and everything, and we've listed them all here. You can find them on my website. Just go to digiblur.com, or the link is down in the video description. Got all the links for you here to find all the cool devices for Auto Discovery right into Home Assistant, all using the Bluetooth proxy. How freaking awesome is that? Yeah, we even started listing some incompatible devices too. So if you got any other stuff to add to the list, you can definitely shoot me a comment down below. I'd love to hear what everybody else is using on their Bluetooth proxies. Now, one thing I did promise to cover in the end of the video was the ESP IDF. Is if you've been doing the Bluetooth proxy thing and you've got some older Bluetooth proxies, take note of this warning that they have in here. They actually say now, if you can, is to build your stuff with ESP IDF framework for the Bluetooth proxy. And it will require you to do a serial flash and to set the memory partitions up correctly on that device. So if you have some other Node MCUs around, you just had hanging off a little power plugs or whatever, yeah, those are going to be stupid simple. You plug them in, change the ESP IDF, and write the new bin file to it. That can be problematic if you have some sealed devices, so maybe you don't want to just try to convert those over. What you can, and just hopefully let them ride, like, say some of those SwitchBot plugs that we've been using. They still work well. I've seen how they're going to work out, but I don't know. So that's going to pretty much cover everything on this one. And hopefully you can go find you a cool product such as this little, outdoor plug, or you can leave it indoor as well. Use it around the house. They're awesome little Bluetooth proxies, especially when you can get the damn thing for $8. So, of course, you can find all the links, the guide, everything down in the video description. And I do appreciate all the YouTube members and Patreon members. Definitely couldn't do without you. And, yep, y'all know the drill. Press all them buttons, and y'all take care.